Welcome to the MetaView podcast. Hear these non-fungible conversations. They will yield you great knowledge and perspective. But beware, they might also make your brain go boom. So watch your step because this rabbit hole goes deep. Good luck and have fun. Welcome, Roberto and Laura. This is the first time we're having two guests at the same time.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Pete, for inviting us. It's also for us the first time that we actually are doing something together. Although we're always doing everything together, but so actually,
This is our first joint interview.
yes.
Nice. And thank you for having me again. So, for those who don't know, this whole thing got started through them hosting us, actually, like in the Liminal Village. And we'll get to that, or should we even start with that? Now, let's just start with the normal intro. If you want to tell a bit about yourselves.
Yeah, of course. About 3 years ago, we co-founded Liminal Village, a co-living and co-creating space in the center of Italy, close to Ascoli Piceno and San Benedetto, for the ones who have been there. And the name is Liminal Village. And we have been hosting people from all over the world, focusing on different subjects. We will maybe get a little bit more into it later, what our different roles are in the village.
I mean, but maybe we can say what is the definition of liminal in itself, because sometimes people don't know that, which is, when you think subliminal or liminal, it means at the edge of a transition. So a lot of people come here to do this transition, but also we are actually we want to be part of the transition that is happening and needs to happen at the global level. That is the socio-economic transition that we will need to see in the next 10 years. Otherwise, it doesn't go too well. So what we want is really to invite people to come here and together co-create that future we want to see and experience also what others have co-created or have suggested in order to build this culture and to build the software and to build the way of dealing or being with each other that we really want to see. So in a way, Liminal is really this experimental ground where every month, basically, we're creating a new community, and depending on the people that come with their experience, with their life experience, and with their vision of what kind of world they would like to see, they would just leave that contribution and they co-create. Basically, we say everybody that comes here is the host and is going to host each other facilitate each other into manifest what they would like to see.
Beautiful. And you want to get a bit into like how you even got the idea?
That's a long story, and I think that actually requires the personal introduction. So, well, I was born 40 years ago, so I say I have 40 years of experience in life, and during this time I did experience a few things. I tried different things. I was living 14 years abroad, and I did a PhD in artificial intelligence, and I traveled the world, and by that you really see the difference of culture and the whole beautiful culture, and the difference also of economical situations, and well, after doing the academia, I also started a few companies, and I noticed that in both cases there was something that was driving both the academic world and the industry, and that thing was mainly politics and money. So it doesn't really matter in the industry, especially and in academia as well. I've been steered by something that goes beyond what you actually want to do, what you would like to do, and what you would like to see, and that's mainly politics and money. And it's in equal length. So I actually experienced both situations, and they're both influenced in the same way by the same structures. So myself, at least, I really had a feeling that we should find or define another way that actually then is not driven by these things that basically are controlling us, and to create a space that actually will allow people to experiment with new ways of thinking. And not only that, I actually started to build some software for communities. And I realized that a lot of times people are trying to put technological solution to help to make the world a better place. But actually what is really needed is the actual culture. And I felt that just the software was not enough. So that we had to make something else where the software could be applicable and you could do fast iteration in order to actually design it together. So that's at least from my side. And yeah, Laura?
Yeah, maybe for me it was less of a rational decision and more of an instinctive decision. For me, we were living in the center of Amsterdam and having a really hectic city life, working long hours, really trying to compensate for that in the weekend. It's pretty...
Work hard, party hard.
Yeah. And at some moment, I just realized that I just had to get out of that, just on a personal level. So I started also to think more in a philosophical way, like, is this the life that we should have, and see the city life? But also for me, it was really more of a personal decision. I need to get out of this hectic life. And so we kind of took a pretty radical decision, and we just left everything in Amsterdam, our jobs and our friends, and we bought a house here in the countryside. And I have to say, in the beginning, it was really scary because you're really stepping out of your comfort zone and going into unknown territory. And it's been an incredible journey, really discovering these fears. And we had a lot of obstacles we had to overcome. Yeah, we have learned so much in the last 3 years compared to the 15 years before that. It's been really incredible. And now I feel that, things are starting to lift off. More and more people are getting to know our place, and we are starting to build a community of people, creating a network. We're also trying to connect with other hubs in Italy and around the globe, but we started to visit other hubs locally. We would like to expand on that because that is, in the end, our goal, to connect different hubs and create one big network.
Yeah. In fact, I think it first starts with the personal connection, connect to the self, right? And then, connect to the environment around you. And that is already a long, long process. So some people ask, why didn't you connect already with the other hubs? I say, of course, we are in touch with some other hubs, but, we first needed to also do our own transition, let's say, in finding our own new center. And I think that's also what everybody kind of needs to go through when you're doing this transition, because, as I said, it's a cultural transition, not a technological transition. But yeah, establishing connection to the hubs, using technologies, not just to say, oh yeah, we know each other, but actually saying, how can we account, how can we know what one place needed versus the other place, how do we know where basically skills are needed and welcome. So yeah, we're investigating all these things, how to develop some sort of framework or a protocol that allows multiple places with multiple mindsets to come together and host people that can contribute.
And the other hubs are like also doing it in the same way?
Yeah, every hub is like a person, there's no person that is really the same. Every hub has its own vibe, its own rules, its own vision, its own practice. Some are even spiritual, right? So, I mean, we're calling hubs any place where people can pass and stay, basically. So there is no...
But there is a set of values that is similar,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think indeed, when we're thinking about culture, it's what kind of culture do we want to see? And there is a common denominator that is like one of the biggest movement that is happening right now, which is this kind of eco-civilization, if you want to call it, right? It's like a civilization that is aligned, more aligned with nature, and it's respectful and sustainable. So yeah, I think that that's kind of like the unspoken ground common denominator of this generation.
It's a little bit like the people that come here. Everybody is very different, but everybody also kind of has the same goal
and same needs.
Yeah, and so it is beautiful to explore other hubs and explore with other people to see, what they have discovered and to learn from each other. Because if every hub or every person has to find everything out by themselves, it's going to take forever. And so we can increase our collective strength by communicating with each other.
As a matter of fact, we're looking to Liminal Village is the vibe that we're creating here is like, okay, we're going to experiment with all kinds of open source technologies, both high tech and low tech, and really try to satisfy technology that is able to satisfy human needs. So now we have ongoing like projects like a farm bot, precision farming, which is basically taking care of the greenhouse, or some crop, just like Nordic garden that it takes care of itself in a way. It's just nature doing what nature does, but in more we help nature do what nature does. And also water purification systems so that we can provide water, and we welcome all kinds of projects that actually can create an ecology of solution that can be applicable not only here but everywhere. So in the end, you can just go to potentially a website and just simply order your kind of abundance system that is just going to give you everything you need without having, and so that you can really truly focus on what your contribution to the world is.
Right. Yeah, sharing that knowledge definitely crucial. Not just knowledge, but yeah, obviously the open source software. But you also wanted to say how the one huge way in which you're different. I don't know about the other hubs in Italy, but I don't know any other place that hosts people for free. I mean, it's not free obviously because you have to do something, but it's free in terms of you don't have to pay with money.
I think there are other hubs who do that, but they usually ask more working hours of the people.
Probably the most successful of these kind of initiatives would be like the roofing initiative, which is you basically are hosted at location in organic farms, and the deal is that you use 4 hours of your day or maybe all the day to help out in the farm, and that gives you access to basically food and shelter. And I think that that's interesting. At the inception of Liminal Village, we thought, yeah, it's something like roofing, but actually not just for organic farm, but for anything. and then we thought, well, if you actually perseverate this thing of just saying, oh, since we're giving you a house, then you have to do this, then we're not doing anything really different than the previous system. It's still a kind of like worker and owner relation that you actually are recreating. It's just that there is no actual money involved. But here we actually want to give the space, and we would like to create a space and a network where people will be able to get free access for what they contribute. So right now it's here, and potentially with some of the people that we have in our network, we basically vouch for people that pass here and say, hey, you should really host these people because they're going to teach you something, or they're going to do something that is really important, or they're working on something that is very important. So in a way, it becomes a sort of a vouch network where if you're really doing something that is truly altruistic, then you shouldn't be worried how you're gonna pay your rent or your bills, or how you're gonna get your next meal. I found that a lot of people have brilliant ideas, and yet they just cannot execute on them because they haven't given space, and because they always has this kind of like financial pressure of surviving that the system kind of imposes on people. And we just wanted to do something different, and so that's part of that.
Yeah, and what we noticed is that just offering a space is a great first step, because then people don't have to worry about making money to pay their rent. But we also saw that that is not enough. So people can have beautiful talents, intentions, plans, and a space, but then sometimes they still are blocked and they still have trouble in executing those ideas. And so that's where we started to look into like what is missing. And so already since the beginning we realized that there's a personal component, a local and a global that should be in balance. So on the personal level you work on whatever is going on inside of you. In the local you do something for your environment, for your local community, or for the place where you're staying. And for the global you work with people outside of your community, and you try to bring your ideas to create something that can help the planet. So this was already there from the start, but we were all neglecting a little bit the personal, because I think that is maybe in our society we don't focus on that so much. Now I see more and more people focusing on it, but when we go to school or when we are educated by our parents, it's not really ingrained in our society to focus on our internal state, on our emotional state. And we saw that by neglecting that, basically all the other work is in vain, because you are not balanced and healthy on the inside, and that will be reflected in your outside world. And so lately we have been also exploring different tools and different schools where we focus more on the inside, and we try also to experiment with that with the people who come here and see how we can help them, not only by providing space but also by giving them tools to integrate themselves on a personal level.
Yeah, Laura should mention she's a medical doctor and an anesthesiologist, and trained in pain medicine, and
I was working as a doctor in the Netherlands, and also here in Italy I continued my work, and I saw a lot of people with chronic pain, and that is a very, let's say, explosive expression of internal imbalance, or an expression of trauma. It can reflect all kinds of issues that are going on inside a person. So I was already familiar with how that is expressed into disease in the body. But as a doctor, I saw that, I realized I did not have the right tools to really help the people, because in our medical system, we focus mainly on the treatment of symptoms, so suppression of symptoms. We always try to oppose a symptom with medication and with operations. We wait until somebody is already really sick and then we do something. And so, I already have a background in looking at the body and disease. And so, that was already a starting point for me. But I realized that I really had to go into a whole unknown territory to find the answers that I was looking for, to help, increase the internal health of people in the community.
Right, makes sense. That's also something that's talked about a lot in the Venus Project documentaries, about how the diseases show in, like, not diseases but like internal stress shows up in diseases. So like that's how it manifests. And I want to get into that as well. But I also want to ask you first about the whole personal, local, global, and the whole Hackalong format. Was that like something that you started with, or is that like a iterative process? Like as you were hosting people over time, you came up with the whole structure, and how does it work?
Yeah, I'd say, okay, so the hackalong process is something that we kind of started immediately with it. And we didn't even know we were starting, it just happened. It just came to us in a way or another. But actually, if there is a meme that essentially I retain personally very important, is the fact that, well, we've been pretty much disconnected to nature, and that we needed, you have a non-coercive environment where nobody's actually telling you what to do, then it might feel a little bit of more dispersive, or you could be lost in there. So we needed some sort of a rhythm that you kind of self-impose on yourself rather than, a boss or your career. So we pretty much like look up in the sky, and the Liminal Village, the moon is such a beautiful sight setting over the mountains. And we realized that the moon is a sort of like a progress bar. And that is a nature cycle that we're actually talking about. And the funny thing is that the moon cycle is the same everywhere in the world. So it really came like, it just clicked, and they said, haha, we could use the moon as our tam-tam, as our rhythm for the process, in which you go from new moon to full moon, and it's like a progress bar up in the sky that is filling up. And in this moment, you're basically hacking along other people, because there is no final judge that is going to decide who won. Everybody won. It's just about, as we come together, we're co-creating around this time. And then after the full moon, basically, there is the kind of breathe out thing. You breathe in and you co-create, and you breathe out and you actually converge and create artifacts that you share with the world. And then it starts again, right? So right now, we started counting donation from January 2020, and we're now at donation 22. And then you can consider this almost like as a sprint, right? Every month or every month, you invite more people, something will happen, and you always have this kind of breathing in and breathing out vibe. And if other people or other hubs around the world wants to use the same pattern, so we're not prescriptive, then we basically have an alignment. And it's so much better because we can organize kind of like events where people share what they did, or people can move from a location to the other location around the same time. So you're synchronizing basically arrivals and departures. So there are so many advantages of realigning, aligning with a cycle, and why not with the nature cycle? All nature is aware about the moon cycle. We kind of forgot since the invention of light, right, of electricity. So it's also a little bit of a representation of actually, reconnecting back to nature and how it breathes.
Yeah, and this cycle already naturally coincides with the energy of a new group starting when people come together, and then slowly, first you have an exploratory phase, and then you start slowly getting into a climax, and then you produce something, and then like the wave goes down again. And so I think it's a beautiful way of following a rhythm that is already in nature, but that is also already within ourselves as humans.
You have people that just dream, and they focus on the dream, and so people that say, no, we just need to do, right? And in this way, you can say, look, there is time for all of this. And it's not just this month; it's actually at the micro scale and the macro scale as well. So you can see how does it do in terms of years, and how does that cycle work, even during the day. But yeah, actually, if we need to talk about years, there is also a different cycle, which is the solar cycle. So right now we're basically using solstices and equinoxes to organize gatherings across multiple communities. And the last time, basically, even MetaGame was involved. So basically, you can have events that are synchronized. And it's not one organization, it's very decentralized. Everybody can host his own event. It's just, if you align with the period, anybody will be able to jump from one event to the other, if it's online, for instance, as long as there is some sort of a federation that allows people to see what is actually going on at all time.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And also definitely feels a lot more natural than like 48 hours hackathon sprints.
Yeah, let's not talk about hackathons, because actually that was Odyssey hackathon. That's where actually the concept really, multiple people actually brought together some ideas on how to create this process. So we don't get all the credits for this, absolutely. But we have, we spent like 3 days you don't really sleep. You're really caffeinated with all the Red Bull. You have some great ideas and you really, really work hard because you believe in with your team. And what happens is that at the end of the game, there is some judge over there that has never heard of anything of what you're talking about that needs to tell if it actually fits their agenda. So what you actually end up after a hackathon, it could be like you're just poorer because you spent the time and the money to be there. You're very, very tired and you're demoralized. And that's actually the result for the majority of people in a hackathon, right? Well, the intention is all good there. It's actually all of these projects are important. All of them should be celebrated. Yeah, so we thought like, okay, can we do this in another way? Can we actually, stretch that thing, allow people to get to know each other, stretch that thing from 3 days to an entire month, and also let the people be the judge. So let the team that were participating at the hackathon to kind of kudo the other team or like give appreciation to the other team. Of course, beside themselves, who would deserve the best, right? So you can really have a sort of a decentralized hackathon, even at the global level, right? Where there is no judge and everybody wins, and we're just doing something good for the planet.
Yeah, now you got me thinking about how we could do this in the virtual space as well.
Yeah, we got some ideas, and it requires some sort of infrastructure. So we've been working on tools basically that you could use to facilitate that. Some of that is interspace. It's Holland. Interspace is to connect with the others. Holland is to share the appreciation for the other and potentially the reward. So in practice, if you do have some smart contract that is kind of holding a pot and distributing it to what the teams are saying they should go to, then project could get funded by appreciation of other projects. And that, I think, is kind of nice. It's very collaborative, and we don't really have a lot of these things in the world. Everything is very competitive.
I just wanted to say that, yeah, I will want to talk to you more about some of your ideas in terms of how to structure the online version. But I wanted to, go back to the Venus project, the Zeitgeist, and all of that stuff. Like, since I know that partially inspired you, and I know it definitely inspired me. Like, they were like my favorite documentaries when I was younger, and then like as I was saying, when I got into crypto, I kind of expected everyone to have this sort of utopian thinking, and everybody to have watched these documentaries and think, okay, the blockchain or like Ethereum is like this infrastructure layer for the societies of the future. But then as I got into it, I realized like most people are there from another angle. Like a lot of the people are from the libertarian angle, so like hyper capitalism rather than post capitalism. And so like when I talked to you, and it turned out that you're also like very much into those that kind of stuff earlier. That's I really loved it because I haven't met many people in crypto that actually watch those and think in that way. So yeah, I would love to hear more about that from you.
Yeah, man. I mean, in a way, we're really like brothers in that respect because we have lived through the same kind of realizations. Venus project for me has been, and the Zeitgeist movement, or actually to be, because these are just flags of groups, but actually the resource-based economy as a meme, it's something that really influenced my way of thinking and basically what I wanted to see happen in the world. And I don't know, for everybody that's not familiar with that, I can give it an attempt at give it, but I will never be able to make it justice because it goes so deep. But to scratch the surface of that, it's really kind of thinking about what are we valuing today. So basically, what is the current operating system of society today? And pretty much like, can we find a different system? Can we upgrade our system, our way of thinking, or way to operate or coordinate with each other? And the resource-based economy basically is saying like, okay, let's do like this. instead of giving value to money, which is something we created, is a tool we created, pretty ancient technology if you think about it, why don't we instead value resources? So when in money when in a monetary system you're talking about economizing, what you do is you can get like very subpar product or basically planned obsolescence. You could go to another country with a lower economical power and then basically pretty much like extract value from them. That is economically a good idea. But if you actually value resources and also the human resource, then what actually happens is that instead, when you're talking about economizing, when resources is your value system, then concept like circular economy becomes like not something nice to do. It becomes integral part of the economy. Sustainability is just what the economy is. As a matter of fact, economy means that. It means just household management. And, do we think that economy is really doing household management right now? I mean, think about it. Earth is our home, is our only home.
It's raping the household.
It's really, this house is a mess. We've been throwing a party for a long time here, and now somebody's got to clean up. So
I wouldn't call it a party.
well, we've been just completely taking everything. I mean, the fact that the nature is actually considered an externality in our economic system. The fact that you can just take resources and put it on the marketplace and you say, I created value rather than I took value, right? It's just crazy. So I'm getting so angry sometimes. But yeah, so like when I discovered this concept, I thought like, okay, what am I actually doing? What are we doing? Can we just make this happen? This is just a little concept, but the consequence of this concept, right, is like, okay, if you have resources in the world and you declare them, right, this is common heritage of everybody living on the planet, right, when we actually value resources, then what happens is that the most efficient way to use the resources is, first of all, local, right? So you build with local resources. And also, you don't have to use money to get access to them. You can actually would need to map all the resources to the needs of the people and the planet in the most effective way. So it becomes an efficient resource management planning system that is kind of becoming the next operating system for the planet. And, I'm not saying like, oh, there's going to be one operating system for the whole planet. We're just saying like, okay, if the values are aligned, you can have as many as you want. Values aligned, meaning, hey, if we're living on the same boat, we are on the same island, and if everybody decides, say, if a group decides to cut down all the trees and the other group decides not to do so, well, we're going to have problems. So we kind of need to come and become united into the realization that we are all need to take control of the space Earth and drive it together in a way. No.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. But I think that if we want to go from raping our household to taking care of our household, we kind of need to first look at why did get to the root cause of why did we start raping our household? Because I think that when you want to change a system, it is really hard to change something if you don't understand why did it go this way in the first place. And I have to say that I hear a lot of people that are really motivated. We're going to change this, we're going to do that, and it's amazing. But I'm hearing little about what is the root cause of this, what is inside, what happened inside of humanity, inside of us, to create this mess and to understand a little bit more why it happened, and so that from there we can sail more smoothly into how to change it.
It really touches on the personal journey, the personal healing of the collective. In fact, I think, Laura, you said it really nicely. The first one of the meaning of life is to heal your own traumas and then help others healing their own. I thought it was really, really beautiful. And in practice, our system It works for many, or I say it works for some, but it has been traumatizing many. I mean, all wars, all poverty is completely embedded in our system, and this just a natural kind of emergent when you actually start with private ownership and you need to get access to resources. So what do? Just go there and take it. That creates so much traumas to the people, and it's just because we have an inefficient system. So yeah, what we're actually deeply doing here is really trying to find ways to, well, first of all, heal yourself so that you can heal the culture, and then within that culture, find ways to actually have a different way or a different operating system that then you can use it to do what you feel is important rather than being imposed to do what you need to do to survive.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. And yeah, what Laura said previously, like really getting into the root causes, which yeah, a lot of people are not doing. But yeah, I guess documentaries like the Zeitgeist, those Zeitgeist is kind of I don't like recommending it to people anymore, especially because of the first part and so much focus on the conspiracy theories. Although the choice is ours.
I agree with you that, talking about conspiracy, you're actually framing yourself into the problem mindset rather than actually just try to look, okay, what is good? What is actually happening out there that is good? And how do we scale that up? So actually, indeed, like I found the Venus Project documentaries better in that terms. They softly touch on the problem, but there actually is really the investigation of a solution. But I have to say, I haven't found many solutions that actually get to that length. So I really highly recommend to everybody listening to just type Paradise of Oblivion. It's a good documentary from the Venus Project, and the deeper you get, the more you really understand the proposal, and there's so much that has been put behind this way of thinking. And yeah, highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think the Venus project goes more into the root causes, and I think that's why it's so powerful. But what you were saying earlier about the zeitgeist movement, I think that nowadays the conspiracies are really based on fear, and maybe that's why the zeitgeist is not catching on nowadays, because it's not based on fear. I think there's a big difference between conspiracy theories now and the zeitgeist movement.
That's not, by the way, nothing to say about the Zeitgeist movement. It's a great movement, and they're doing great work on education. And the later documentaries are also touch very much on the root cause.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, so basically, just keep the first one, and you'll be fine. I'll just watch it if you're there anyway.
There's a lot of useful information in the later ones, especially if you're a beginner into all of this.
But yeah, so it has been, imagine that for me has really led me to quit my own company and start this kind of access-based mindset in which you're basically saying, look, it's not that everybody needs to have everything. That's just utopia. But actually what you can do is that everybody can get access to everything. So it's not talking about abundance in the ownership way, but abundance in terms of access abundance. So can we get access to all the things we need, including a yacht, including a trip to Mars? It's just about the access. You don't need to own the yacht. You don't want to own the yacht. That's much maintenance. Yeah. So this is the way of thinking, and and in a way, in our little, we're trying to manifest such a thing to reconnect to why is this free, because we really want to also have a little bit of an experiential and create more of that kind of world. So we already made the transition. It's all about how many people choose to make the same transition. The more there are, the more access you can get.
Yeah, that's one of the big ideas, the libraries of things, and how people like don't need the ownership so much as access, and how like everybody buys things but then doesn't use them for most of the time. I think that's would be awesome.
Yeah, if everything that is not used would be shared, everybody who has so much. I mean, think about it. In southern Italy, there are like 40% of houses that are without inhabited. Some are just holiday houses, some are just ruins, some are just store of body. But can you imagine all the kind of like social enterprises that could be hosted for free, even in old dying villages? Just say, oh, let's turn this into a startup village, and everybody that's doing stuff that is just good for the world doesn't have to pay to be here. If you're doing stuff for profit and return your profit to investors, then yeah, get your own house. But here, it's we can actually build a community which synergizes the projects. So that's a little bit also the vision of the village, and trying to facilitate location, houses, pods, villages, monasteries, whatever it is, to come together and give access to projects like like MetaGame and or water purification systems or anything that is needed, anything that people recognize the need for it.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like Italy is one of the places where that is possible, where you could literally get a whole small village that's mostly abandoned and do something like that. And it's not like somewhere out in Africa or somewhere.
Yeah. Well, the village, usually getting a village that is abandoned usually means that there's a lot of renovation works to be done at first. So actually that would be the first need for the village, for builders and for permaculture designers to really kind of like restore the village. But I'm even thinking about different things like, hey, we do have these 3D printers that can use local material like clay and rice and hand to actually just print out a village in a couple of days. So what are we talking really about here? It's like, can we make a network, not only a regeneration, but hey, creating new places that are now designed with sustainability and efficiency right from the start, right? It's much easier to do that than go to an old village and rebuild it. But then again, the whole village has its own character, right? So totally worth the effort.
Yeah, there's pros and cons on both sides. With the existing village, it would probably also be easier to like collaborate, quote unquote, with the government.
Yeah, exactly. Some would be very happy, and some would actually, I don't know, eventually feel threatened.
From what I understood, the people that are trying that is that, it can be very challenging, but once you gain the trust of the local community, beautiful things can happen, and they really start to appreciate what you're doing for their economy. And but it takes a lot of time in communicating with the locals. Definitely, it's not easy.
Yeah, I feel like the more challenging part might even be like the government itself, like getting, like if you wanted to print a village, like getting all the permits and things like that. That sounds like it would be a nightmare.
We just need to have a permit for the one house and then duplicate that. That's how villages get created.
Once you know which paperwork to fill in, then it gets easier.
Especially in Italy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But this is for the dream for the future. But once you sold that house and call it installed, what kind of mindset do we welcome? Are we just printing houses to sell it at market prices, or are we actually a network that are kind of like spreading open source technologies that kind of bring everybody local food and start to recreate communities? Because actually, ultimately, I think that's one of the biggest issues. The current operating system, the monetary system, it's so efficient that basically says, I developed this hack once, and you say, okay, you just have to say what you need, and then on the back, something will happen and will manage to get it to you. But the people will actually look in this hack for a job or for money, which is like, that's not what you need, right? So the thing is, people have considered money as such an important and powerful tool that now has become, the only thing you need. And if that's the case, it means you do not need community, because if you do have money, you can get anything you want. You'll pay for the plumber, you'll pay for the food, you'll pay for your accommodation and your rent and your bills and everything. But once you actually remove money, then you realize like, oh, we need to reconnect on a community level, and we need to really establish connection at the personal level of mutual support and solidarity. And I think that a transition to a game B would be so much about that. It's so much about reconnecting with each other and regaining trust. So it would be really about network of trust. So it's not about the Internet of Things, it's really about the Internet of people.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. It's really not about technology. Technology doesn't save the world. Technology doesn't do anything. At the end, it's people, and all people have similar needs wherever they are, whatever their culture, whatever their orientation, anything. It's the needs are common. So let's focus on addressing this first, and then build from there, and focus on the higher and higher level of the pyramid of needs. So money destroys communities. So how do we rebuild them?
Great question, and I feel like it's also a good note to end it on with talking about how the technology doesn't really save the world, since that's like what kind of all of our focus here is. Like, we're so focused on technology, expecting that to be like the solution to all the problems, but yeah, it's not really.
Somebody would do it. Right?
But we do kind of need better operating systems for communities.
Yeah. We just started that, like, okay, what are the processes to upgrade our operating system? Is there any way to do so? And for me, the answer to that question has been like, okay, let's just do it for ourselves first and see whoever wants to get that update over the other update. I think in the next 10 years, we'll see an ecology of this kind of things happening, where your mobile phone becomes the access to the economy, and you join not only one operating system, but multiple operating systems that are going to be able to provide for the things you need with a certain or another kind of mindset behind it. So I'm really looking forward to see that and to be able to co-create part of that at least. Exciting times ahead.
Oh yeah, and I loved your idea of like starting really simple with like a digital notice board inside the village.
Yeah. So creating tools that are going to be able to be used by the villagers, and we're not talking here about just the Liminal Village, but even the small rural areas. And the thing is always this kind of like digital gap. How do people get adoption on this kind of thing? So yeah, one of the idea was like, okay, let's make a community. So let's put all these tools, all these amazing technologies that we're developing using blockchain and so on, let's just put it behind something that everybody understands, and kind of like a digital billboard. Everybody passes there, and then if you want to interact with it, you find a way, and slowly you basically onboarded onto a peer-to-peer network of provisioning of goods and services. So yeah, that's some of the projects we're working on, and yeah, we're gonna try to install it in the little dying villages around the US as soon as possible.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I wish you the best of luck with that, and I hope to be able to implement some of that in the villages in Croatia at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Digital and physical. You can do also the digital villages, right?
Yeah. That's what we're building at MetaGame. But yeah, so much focus on digital still. I'm really looking forward to moving into the physical stuff.
Yeah, it's both. We can help out on that side.
Yeah, you're the first physical guild that we onboarded. Now we have the first physical location. Woo! All right, yeah, this was fun. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing us out of our hole.
Right, and happy to do it. And yeah, we'll keep in touch. You have a nice day.
You too.
Ciao.
Ciao.